Imagine it, feel it, believe it. That was Neville Goddard's formula. And boy, does it work. I created a meditation to guide you through those 3 steps to imagine, feel, and believe anything you want to draw into your life. Check it out at hightimelinebooks.com, and don't forget you can get all 3 of the prosperity meditations in a bundle, 3 for the price of 2. hightimelinebooks.com. Welcome, hello, hi, how are you? It's Hump Day on the Fun Astrology Podcast. Thomas Miller, thank you so much for stopping in, and we have a karma day today. You know, sometimes the chart just reflects karma. This is one of those days. First thing that happens this morning is pretty early, 5:30 this morning. Mercury enters Capricorn. Now remember, Capricorn is ruled by what? Saturn, right? Lord Karma. So there's karma domino number 1. And then the very next thing that happens is at 12:15 Eastern. So those of you on the East Coast will be having lunch. Mercury will exactly square the nodes of the moon from Capricorn. So let's camp here for a minute because it's something that we haven't talked enough about when a planet is at a 90-degree angle to the nodes of the moon. When I first heard about this, it was from a pop-up reading, basically, from a conversation I was having from somebody, and they said, oh, your Saturn is at the bending of your nodes. Well, I hadn't heard about bending anything in the chart at that point, so I started looking stuff up like a good Scorpio would and found an article that Kathy Allen had written in the 1990s, I believe, in Mountain Astrologer magazine. Sadly, that publication is going to be closing its doors January 24th, so I checked to see if the article was still there. It is, but I'm wondering if they'll be able to keep the website up. It's been running since 1987. The founder died a couple of years ago, and the magazine has just not been able to sustain. And obviously, times are changing. It was a printed edition, then digital, and it's been an incredible contribution to astrology. I do hope that they will keep the archives available. Used to, you could buy them and buy into them and buy bulks of years, I believe. But you'll just have to check in and see what they do after they close. mountainastrologer.com. And this article you can search up. It's called At the Bending, and it was published February 8th, 2010 by Kathy Allen. She talks about the interpretation, but one of the other things she points out is depending on where the planet that is at the 90-degree angle, in today's case Mercury, where it is between the nodes also makes a difference in the interpretation. And the way you do it is you start with the north node. So the north node right now is at 0 degrees Aries, and you move clockwise. If you encounter the planet that is square to the nodes as you are moving clockwise and you have not yet reached the south node, which is always obviously opposite, that planet then is interpreted as being at the south bending of the nodes of the moon. If you don't encounter that planet, you cross the south node continuing clockwise, and you encounter the planet in between the south and the north node going clockwise. That's the north bending. And basically, the south is interpreted more internally and the north more externally. Kind of like the south would be an equivalent of, let's say, a planet in retrograde. It's an internal focus. It's an internal expression. And that's where we find Mercury today. Now, the other exact aspect in the sky, and this is the third of our little karmic triad, if you will, happens at just shy of 9 p.m. tonight Eastern. The sun squares Chiron, which again brings this whole karmic package du jour, the package of the day, inward. So we have the nodes of the moon, we have Mercury, we have Saturn involved because Mercury's in Saturn's house now, and we have Chiron and the sun. That's a very personal package of karma. Now, one other interpretation of that planet being at the bending and the south node is that it can also require or suggest some kind of offering or sacrifice related to the position of that in your own chart. So how you could apply all of this is take out your natal chart and find 0 degrees Aries and 0 degrees Libra, because that's the nodal position. North node is at 0 Aries, south node at 0 Libra. And then you could go over and find that crossover point between Sagittarius and Capricorn, that cusp. Mercury is there. Then back to Capricorn. Look at 19 degrees Capricorn. That's the sun. And then back up to Aries, 19 degrees. That's Chiron. You can then look and see what planets are related to those points in your chart. Maybe something is on top of something in your chart there. Well, that's going to be amplified. Maybe one of those points is opposite some critical real estate in your chart. Well, that could be magnified as well. So you just start to weave it together like that, and you could see how maybe something could come up. Or maybe what I like to do is get on the front side of it, like not the reactive side, get on the proactive side. And you could be looking at this like, wow, what in my chart could I be working on karmically? To grow, to forgive, to pray for, to release, all of those things around our spiritual growth. And I think today's like this. Sometimes there are big, collective aspects in the sky, like what we talk about on here. And boy, there's a big one coming up on Saturday that Elisa is going to be talking about with us on Friday. The nodes of the moon go ahead and pivot across those 0-degree points and change signs. And she's going to tell us all about it. And let me just close with that. That's a good point, because I really appreciate you all accepting Liz, Grace, Kristin, and Elisa, because I am really appreciating the little bit of extra space here right now. Still will be around 3 or 4 days a week, but we're talking about karma. And I know a lot of us are, quote unquote, dealing with karma, but then we also have to realize that we can sow seeds of karma. And I have to tell you, just a little peek behind the curtain here, that these 3 ladies are thrilled to be doing this podcast. I cannot tell you, they are lit up. When I finally broke out of my shell some years ago, I started going to Toastmasters, which of course is a club oriented to public speaking. Well, one thing that people fear as much or more than death. And Toastmasters is organized for you to speak in public. Well, what these ladies are getting is an opportunity to speak in public about something that they are absolutely passionate about in their hearts and their soul. And that is, of course, our shared interest in astrology. So as you support them, you encourage them. And that, for all of us, is sowing seeds of good karma. And what a great thing to do on a day like today. So maybe, if you haven't already, pop into the YouTube channel, because they're watching this, and just leave a comment and thank them for what they're doing. I think that would be a beautiful expression of just sowing a seed of saying, hey, girl, you're doing great, and support them in this public voice that they are all developing. Thank you guys so much for letting me go a little long here, but I thought that was an important thing to include. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Kristin tomorrow, Elisa Friday. I'll be back with Merriman on Saturday, and see you back here again on Monday. Love you. Bye-bye.